2023. Mother Gaia, third dimensional planet, ascending into fourth dimensional collective consciousness. Azure,
Grand Rising Captain.
can you give me the update on third dimensional planet Gaia?
Yes, Christo, with pleasure. Gaia 3D currently is under critical condition. It seems there is a large amount of humans that have forgotten who they are, causing confusion, division and war driven by fear.
Thank you, Azure. Before we head down to Gaia, can you give me any information about the 3D world, as it's been a while since I've been there?
Sure, the 3D Gaia. We will face much resistance from negative polarity beings as a dual plane. Karma and Dharma are in effect. There is free will. It will be wise to protect our energy and hold love.
Alright, thank you, Azure. Sounds like we have quite the task at our hands. But that's why we're here, and that's why we've been called upon in the Galactic Federation to go down to planet Gaia, the 3D realm. Alright, Azure, let's get ourselves ready to go. Let's hit the time portal and make sure we land in the present day, Mother Gaia, third dimension. Whoa, oopsies. Yeah, not that one. Okay, let's try this one. Maybe this is the portal. Oh yeah, Azure, this is a little too far in the future. I think we need to kind of go back a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Modern day Earth.
Captain Christo, as we approach, I will prepare our guest suite on the mothership for the souls we hold space for. Oh, and Captain, I will be sure to leave plenty of storage for earthly food delights to take for our travels.
Oh my gosh, Azure, you never fail to make me laugh. You know those earthly delights? That good old food of earth. Absolutely gotta have that food of earth. Thank you, Azure. Alright. It is time. It's time to make our way down to 3D Gaia. To hold space, show love, compassion, bridge the conscious collective, and help provide knowledge and wisdom and tools so fellow souls can remember who they are, live in a unified mind state with a harmonious being, with holistic, conscious practices and tools that they may access efficiently and quantumly.
Welcome aboard. I am Azure. Please get cozy. Grab a tea, snacks or crystals as we prepare for a sacred light conversation. The sacred holding space is down the hall to the left. Wholeness, balanced love. Grand day, welcome to the mothership. My name is Azure. I will debrief you on who the next beautiful soul to join us for a sacred light conversation. Adam Ruth is a passionate performer and teacher of fire and flow arts for 8 years, bringing him healing through expression and transmutation. Adam is a devoted student to the Hermetics and other ancient philosophies, the devotion turned into service as he is joining us on the mothership to educate us on the 7 Hermetic principles and how to use them in your everyday life in a pure way. Get cozy and enjoy.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, and grand day or grand night to you, wherever you are in this time space. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sacred Light Conversations podcast, where we come together to bridge community, share knowledge and wisdom, and holistic tools to be able to tangibly place into your everyday life for a more healthy and conscious living. Today, we are going to be joined by a local Ohio good brother of mine, Adam, who has collaborated with me in different holistic retreat spaces, as well as other events as well. He is a passionate fire and flow arts spinner. He is also a teacher of the fire and flow as well. And he also is a deep diver in the ancient hermetics, along with other esoterics and ancient philosophies. So today, Adam is going to join us as we dive into the ancient hermetics, and we'll be talking about the Kabbalion and some other sacred texts that relate as well. So without further ado, Brother Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate you, sir. It's an honor to be here, buddy.
Yeah.
So this will be my third time really talking about this in a live situation. So I just started studying this stuff probably honestly only about a year and a half, 2 years ago, digging deep into the hermetics, but they all kind of tie into each other. Once you start learning about them, you kind of see like a lot of these things you've already been aware of and you already know to some degree of their existence in a way. But yeah, man, I appreciate the really good introduction, Marcus, for sure.
Absolutely, man. I'm honored to have you here. It's a beautiful, beautiful topic. And, this stuff can really help shape people's lives in a very beautiful way. So, yeah, just thank you for joining us. Now,
if it's applied properly, yes.
if it's applied properly.
So I'm not trying to get weird or anything, but I do want to say just kind of like a little, meditation, like a loud meditation in regards to this, because it is a sensitive subject. So I'm going to go on 3, 1, 2, 3. As we talk about these topics, I just want it to be understood. This is just for the spread of knowledge and for the use of good, to keep the flame lit for humanity in order for us to move forward and raise our vibration. And we shall not use any of these principles or properties as any kind of way of personal self-gain to hurt someone else or anything of that matter. This is only to be used to raise your vibration and help raise others' vibrations as well through mental transmutation. And we appreciate Source and Gaia and existence, and everything that is divine. Thank you. So,
Ashe. Thank you for that. Well
Yeah,
said.
man. It's real stuff. All right. You can go ahead and just a little introduction and whoever is in here. I've got a kind of a thing that I typed up for my workshop, and I really do think reading it is gonna help, just kind of set the stage. And we are going to use this document to help guide us through this little bit of the podcast that we're working on right now. So, Marcus, if you don't mind pulling that up, that would be lovely, friend.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Love you, brother.
We're getting into the 7 hermetic principles for all you guys out there. And we have this wonderful document so you guys can actually read it and be able to visually see what is going on.
Okay.
All right. Can you see it well?
You might want to zoom in. I don't know if everyone else can see it. I'm going to read it off my lap here, but I don't know if there's a way to zoom in on the actual writing so people can kind of get a better look at it if they are looking.
There we go.
That looks pretty good, Marcus. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and kick this off. Maybe Marcus can help me read some of this. I'll pass it along to him when I'm ready, but I'm gonna go ahead and read the first little chunk of this. This information has been supplied by the book The Kabbalion, authored by the 3 initiates. This book is one of the many publishings in regards to Hermetic wisdom. Hermetic wisdom is derived from a patron figure in history named Hermes Trismegistus, a legendary sage associated with ancient esoteric wisdom. The name Hermes Trismegistus represents the fusion of Hermes, the Greek god of knowledge, and the Egyptian god Thoth, as a reputed author or source of the Hermetic writings, works of revelation on occult subjects, and theology. Theology, just FYI, is study and origin of different religions. Thoth was the scribe of the gods, the inventor of writing, and the patron of all the arts dependent on writing, including medicine, astronomy, philosophy, physics, and magic. You want to go ahead and read some there, Marcus?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So the core concept of Hermeticism is to gather the knowledge to achieve transmutation. There are 2 main categories of transmutation: mental transmutation and material transmutation. Many have heard of alchemists referencing turning stone into gold or water into wine. That would be material transmutation. The students of Hermes believe and teach that before material transmutation can be reached, thou shalt first learn the true Hermetic art of mental transmutation.
Mental transmutation. The ability to take emotions, thoughts, attitudes, ideas, and mental pathways and shift them through analysis of the situation and the application of the Hermetic principles. Alchemy. We all have heard the word alchemy. The concept of taking anything that appears fixed in time and space, and with the proper tools, knowledge, and energy, shifting that idea, item, into an alternate state of existence than its original form, thus changing the vibration. I do want to put out here magic. This is something that I've heard about magic. This isn't necessarily a definition. And neither was alchemy. That was just kind of my take on alchemy. Same with mental transmutation. Those are all just written by me through what I've learned. That's what they are to me. Magic, I've always thought was interesting when I've heard, is the shadow of religion and the mother of science. As you get into what that means, you think on it on your own. I'm not going to spend long on that at all. I'm actually just going to move on, but it's a much bigger word than some people believe. All right. Do you want to go ahead and read this one, or do you want me to read this one, Marcus?
I can go ahead.
Okay, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. So magic, the shadow of religion and the mother of science. Many of the great figures that we have heard of in history have performed miracles or great feats unheard of to common man. May have been master alchemists. Men and women have studied and applied the hermetic principles as well as understanding the chakras, their higher self, connection with the creator, and the universal mother, Gaia. As humans, this is a rite of passage in our existence, while in the flesh, society has driven wedges between us and put hurdles in front of us to discourage us from the work. It's time to wake up and pay homage to the gifts we have all been given. You owe at least that to your higher self, who is rooting for you every single day. Let's harness our consciousness, raise our vibration, and apply our best self to ourselves and to each other. Remember, having grace for yourself is just as important as having grace for those around you. We are one. Hermetic transmutation is applied using seven core principles. We are going to spend some time discussing those next. I wonder what was going on in my mind with 3.
I don't know, man, but the number 7 always gets me because I know they talk about there's a lot more chakras, and of course there are, because it's like these hubs, you know what I mean, that are off of the whatever. But 7 core principles, 7 core chakras, 7 deadly sins, 7 virtues. There's a lot of
Mhm.
sevens that are going out there, you know what I mean? I think that's a big number in history for some reason. I'd like to dig more into the number 7 later in my pursuits. You want to go ahead and flip the page? There you go. Already on it. Nice job, man. Okay, so really what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the first one, and I'm going to maybe do some Q&A with Marcus and just see if he's, open to ask some questions, and maybe I can answer them, or I may ask him some questions, but we'll spend a couple minutes on each one of these principles. Mentalism. This is the first core principle of Hermeticism. Without mentalism, none of the other principles have a place of existence. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into this a little deeper there. The principle of mentalism asserts that the all is mind, the universe is mental. This principle posits that the universe is ultimately mental in nature and reality is created by the mind. I really want to add to this the more I study mentalism, because that definition is a little loose. Uh, I, as I've studied mentalism a little bit more, it's much broader than that, because all is mind and we exist within that mind. So in a way, it's that macro micro concept. If you've ever, obviously we've all heard that, but we in our own right have a place to create in this universe. So in essence, we are the micro to the macro, but we still have the ability to continue to create for ourselves. And that is very vital for all. And it's not just the idea of just necessarily, it's literally the vibration of creation, as we get into that a little bit more, because it really is a place that the human mind can go, that it helps raise awareness. It helps raise the idea that you are a very autonomous creature. You're not just, a zombie or a walking statistic. You have something to offer. But really, at the end of the day, it's also the concept that, we are all one because we share the same source. And, some people may call that God. Some people may call that, many, many different names. Um, the atheist might not call it anything. I don't know. But this is where I would like to leave it up to Marcus to maybe give something back and let me kind of go off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with mentalism, shoo wee. Oh man. Okay, so it's very complex in a way when we get into the micro details of mentalism. But for me, what comes up is, well, remembering that the mental plane is more expansive and more of that infinite energy to be able to experience, or consciousness, so to say, compared to your physical body. Um, so when we do time and space traveling mentally, we are able to, as we say, quantum like, experience different frequencies and different forms mentally. And something about mentalism is that mentalism is almost kind of like,
You're really
it's
hitting on
almost,
some good spots here, Marcus. I'm not trying to like interrupt you, but do you care if I intervene at all?
yeah, go ahead.
Well, you really did do a good job there, because the next one is correspondence, which this is where you start talking about the planes of existence.
Oh,
And
perfect.
you said the mental plane, which is extremely powerful with mentalism, because without the mental plane, there would be no material plane. So everything
Hmm.
is happening prior in the realm of spirit, which is where the mental plane actually resides. So you
Yeah.
do have this, like, there's a connection there to how our mental our mental state, what's going on in the ether realm, the quantum area, you know what I mean, is bringing things forward into existence. And it's happening everywhere, you know. And with the law of correspondence, it goes very, very ties into that. So the second principle would be the principle of correspondence, as summarized by the adage, as above, so below. As above, so below, as below, so above, as within, as without. It suggested that there is a harmony and an agreement and a correspondence between the different planes of existence, from the physical to the spiritual. So this is where, you know, you got a couple things that are going on here in the law of correspondence. It's really two main ones, and they set it in there. It's the as above, so below, and as below, so above, which is the conceptual theory that, you know, it gets pretty deep, because as you talk about the planes of existence, it's like there's a set of laws and rules that exist on the lower planes of existence, and they exist same as you go up into the planes of existence. They do not change. So as you continue to go up into higher realms, there are these base core rules of how things work, and they exist, and all things that exist within those realms have to conduct themselves in those ways. But just as we are able to, you know, manipulate things that are on lower dimensional existences, like, you know, a shape or a box or anything like that, there are things that are in upper dimensional existences that are able to do the same thing. Like, it's kind of like they're not breaking the rules, but they are allowed to intervene. But as within and as without, I think, is the much more obtainable concept part of correspondence. I mean, you're really getting into like quantum realms and different like dimensional existences, and, you know, transdimensional beings and all this other crap when you get into the as above, so below, because it's like, well, what's following those rules? What does that actually mean? And like, I am still like trying to understand all that. But the as within and as without makes a whole lot of sense to me, with the simple fact that it's, you are creating your own existence. It ties back into mentalism in that way as well, because in the material mind, or in the material realm, the material plane is what they call it in the Kabbalah, the material plane or the mental plane, you're creating what you're going to bring forth into the material plane. So, in a very direct way, your emotions, your thought paths, your attitude, anything that you are conducting inside with your personal chi and your energy that you're using to have consciousness meld with your brain, what's going on before it leaves your body is essentially going to start determining the result of what you are receiving from the outside existence of your mind. So it's like what you give is what you will receive. And you do hear that a lot. You've heard that a lot throughout time. You get what you give, or you do good, you get good. But it's so much more than that, because there's so many more attitudes and thoughts and things and desires and pleasures and vices and wants and needs and all kinds of things that we have. And so the question is what's the proper way, or what's the best way to kind of maneuver through that. And part of me thinks that's what it means to be human in a way, is figuring out that divine path of how do we do this. But I think it's very, very hard to obtain that, but that's why I do study these principles, is just not even so I can do it better, just so it just makes a little bit more sense what's going on around me and what's going on within me, and realizing that those two things are very much correlated. So I don't know if do you got something you want to interject, Marcus, or do you just kind of want me to keep running, bud?
Yeah, I'll definitely share. One thing I like to think about when it comes to the correspondings is you can look at, the human being. When I say look at the human being, I mean more so of, give me 1 second. I was going to pull up an image, but I guess not. Mercury retrograde is in full effect today.
Electronic issues.
I was going to pull up an image, and that image was... okay then. That's weird. All right. Anyway. But my point was, I was going to pull up an image of the aura, and how the aura shows multiple layers basically stacked on top of each other, parallel. And the aura is a great demonstration of showing correspondence. So when you look at the aura, and you guys can look this up, you guys can just type in aura, or you can type in aura layers of human, something along that nature. And when you look that up, you'll see a diagram, and it'll show a person either sitting, standing, and then outside from that physical body, you'll see different layers around it. And then they'll label those layers different names. So these layers are like subtle bodies of energy, and they all have a different frequency and a different form, so to say. So you have your physical body. Your physical body is the one that you'd see basically at the bottom or in the center of all of it. And it's your most dense version. It's your third dimensional body. And then the next layer you'd see from there is your etheric body, or your energy body. And this energy body is basically like the blueprint system. It's like the coding, the bridge. And what is it the bridge of? What is it the coding of? Well, the next layer out from your energy body you'll see is your emotional body.
Ooh.
So then after the emotional body, that's when you then see the mental body. So the mental body is a bigger layer, or a bigger aura, when it comes to the diagram of the multidimensional layers of your human being. So that is just a way of showing and mapping out with what Adam was just explaining, with how we experience things mentally before we experience it emotionally, before we experience it physically. So energy and information comes into our energy field like antennas. It magnetizes electromagnetically. And then we basically suck it in and consume the information and the energy like a vacuum, a vortex. Because we're basically a bunch of vortexes. and we take it in and we absorb it for a minute. Now, for some, it's for a minute. For others, they hold on to it. They become attached. It becomes density, becomes trauma, other things of that nature. But it comes through these other layers, and there's other layers out beyond the mental as well. There's the astral, and then there's like the Christ layer, and there's a whole bunch of other layers. But for this sake, it's going to come through your mental, and you're going to experience it through your mental body. So this is why a lot of times we'll get an idea, we'll daydream, we'll think about something, we'll hear something, or we'll get foresight, or we'll have some type of instinct about someone about to call us, because we're experiencing it mentally before it materializes into the physical. So it comes in, we mentally experience it, and then through the mental, it then processes and vortexes into your emotional body. And your emotional body is where that energy now becomes in motion with your energy field. And now that energy emotion is called emotion. And then that emotion comes through your chakras. It comes through your meridian points. It comes through your other minor chakras throughout your body. And then that emotion, as it comes through you, it then is experienced through your chakras and through your centers into your material form, or your physical avatar, if you want to call it that. So a key here is having a clear energy body, a clear and activated light body. So when we have a clear and activated light body, then these centers, which we can also say are gateways or portals or bridges, are able to fluidly rotate. Chakra in Sanskrit means wheel of energy, wheel of light. So we have a bunch of wheels that basically turn into vortexes. And then those vortexes materialize into forms, crystallizes. And that's just a look holistically at the principles and the way that our multidimensional human being is created based off of these principles. Because we've got to remember too that these principles are founded in the fabric of how the human being is designed as well. But I'll go ahead and hand it back to you, brother.
That was a very good share, man. That was pretty cool. I like that.
Thank you. I wish I had the diagram, but I did it well anyway.
I think you did a great job drawing it out for our minds, buddy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you want to get the document pulled back up?
Oh, yes. I'm flowing over here.
And we're on vibration.
There we go.
And we're on vibration. Scroll down a little
Let me
bit.
change the form.
There you go.
There we go.
Fantastic. There we go. All right. So third principle of hermetics that they teach, right, is the principle of vibration. The principle of vibration states that nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The principle highlights that the constant state of motion and change in the universe, indicating that everything is composed of vibrating energies at different frequencies. Just to elaborate on that a little bit, first and foremost, they date these things to be like over 15,000 years old. These principles are very, very, very old. And we've recently found, in quantum physics that this is actually 100% true. That at all times, whether we can see it, believe it or not, everything is always moving down to the molecular atom. That everything, the molecular structure of material, period, is moving. So at all times, things are always vibrating. And I just think that's it's pretty interesting because it's not just that's the thing with this principle. Like Marcus was just saying, he was talking about the mental plane, the energetic plane, emotions. Like, and I've gotten pretty deep with those concepts too that he was talking about. And these, they do hold a vibration in existence according to the hermetic principles. So they're not just these, fictitious things or these brain signals or something. Like when they do happen, that brain signal happens, it is literally creating a vibration. Just because you cannot see the vibration doesn't mean it exists. I seen a meme today. It wasn't even a meme. I don't even want to call it that. It was more like a quote. A friend of mine shared it, and it said, we all believe in Wi-Fi signals and the, Bluetooth the connection and stuff like that. But we still, some people still think that frequency, energy, and vibration are fictitious, and it's so far from the truth. And things like in the hermetic principles, the whole concept of mental transmutation is supposed to be able to allow you to understand these principles so you can kind of regain traction of your personal power, the power of your mind, of your energy body, as you process these signals coming through from outside existence, and as you're also producing your reality in real time. And so through the understanding of these different principles is supposed to help you maneuver through that process a little bit easier. And the concept of vibration, as they get into it in the Kabbalion, really is supposed to allow you to see and understand that, thought paths, attitudes, emotions, they all have a energetic vibrational frequency that they give off. It literally takes up space in the ether realm, like whatever you want to call it, in ether, in energy. We cannot see energy with our normal eyes. It's not, maybe if your third eye is all the way awake, we're not going to go down that path, but there are ways to see energy in some ways, but even when you do, I don't think you see it. It's more like you feel it, but and then that leads into something else. In the Kabbalion, they start talking about, different powers of the mind. And, we've all heard of levitation and telekinesis. And my gosh, wouldn't that be cool to be able to fly and move things with your mind? Like, oh my goodness. And like earth bending and all that other glorious stuff. And then, of course, you got like telepathy, which we've all think we've actually been able to do once or twice, probably. But then they talk about the very first thing that happens before telepathy. And I can guarantee you everyone has experienced this. And it's called induction, like induction. And induction is literally the process that happens energetically when you run into a vibration or a frequency and it starts to make you feel different than your natural frequency. It's like, think about like if you're a perfectly tuned FM radio signal, which no one's perfectly tuned, but you're getting a clear channel, and all of a sudden you start to get this fuzz that's coming through. Well, that would be like induction. Doesn't necessarily have to be bad fuzz. It could be amazing fuzz. It could be really weird fuzz. It could be, it could be anything, but that is, you walk into a room and you realize you're in the wrong room. You go to a bar or you go to a party or you go to a festival or you go to a meeting and you're like, this is incredible. Like, I haven't even talked to anybody, but I'm already having an amazing time. Or sometimes you have the opposite. You walk in, you're like, oh, I think I'm in the wrong spot. I think I'm definitely in the wrong spot. And what's happening is your consciousness is receiving induction. Your spirit, your soul, your brain, your heart, and your mind and your consciousness are receiving it's inducing this energy on yourself that you are receiving from the outside existence. And what it's doing is it's processing that. And the reason why that happens is because even though we can't see it, we are surrounded by vibrational frequencies at all times. And we're all giving it off. Everything is vibrating, nothing's moving. But there are things that are moving and vibrating that we cannot even see. And I really do think that that's just a big portion of, the third law of hermetics for sure, is that, without understanding that attitudes, emotions, mental pathways, and thoughts are almost in a way, they are a material thing. They're not material, but they are real. They exist. They hold space in existence with the vibration. They're not fictitious. They're not just feelings. They actually carry weight. And the reason why they carry weight is because you're gathering other vibrations, producing these different results within your mind and your existence, which thus causes you to start creating your reality. But yeah, anyway, go if you want to intervene, Chris, or yeah, Marcus. Sorry.
No worries, man. Yeah, you know, the way I like to talk about the law of vibration is like we got to think because so everything is made up of energy, frequency, and if everything is made up of energy and frequency, then there has to be some type of vibratory field in order for that frequency to be in motion, to be happening. Um, so with that being said, you know, really kind of like integrating and coming to an understanding of the law of vibration can help you with dissolving a lot of limited beliefs as well as um, just like, you know, a lot of boxes that you may have been put in or put yourself in. It can also help you kind of dissolve finite realities, as in like realities that are blocking you up from being in more of a open source flowing state. And what I mean by that is like, you know, if we believe that, you know, we're not vibratory beings, and if we just think that, you know, something is going to be finite forever, or that this life is finite in general, and that, you know, everything isn't subject to change at any moment, then we can find ourselves really getting sucked in to the lower dimensions of reality where we are heavily experiencing a lot of density.
Mm.
And with that density, it could cause a lot of very struggling, painful, and disorienting experiences. But then, if we shift our mental focus into the knowingness that everything is a vibration, therefore, the vibration can be altered at any moment due to intentional focus and mentalism. If you go back to mentalism,
Mm.
then we're able to really access more of that eternal and infinite power within ourselves, remembering that we can mentally and through mentalism, along with our actions, we can shift things. You know, we're not trapped, we're not stuck, we're not victims to our experiences, but we're able to change the vibration that we're in. And we're able to change the vibration that we are in relationship with something as well. So, yeah, I'll leave it there for the vibration.
Nice. Very nice, Marcus. All right. I'll read the fourth one. Polarity. The principle, this which is kind of funny because Marcus already said something that immediately made my mind think polarity. I can say since I've been studying these things, I'll have something happen in like real time, like where I'm just like out and about anymore, and immediately my mind goes, I'm experiencing that particular I'm, it's like they're all going on at the same time, but every once in a while, one of these principles will pop up, or a couple of them will pop up, and you'll be like, boom, boom, boom. Like they're talking about, as within, as without. That's an as within, as without issue. Or, hey, they need to work on their polarity. And so with the vibration goes into the core concept of with polarity, the principle of polarity posits that everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. It suggests that the opposites are essentially the same in nature, but differ in degree, and that the extremes can be reconciled through the understandings of this principle. I actually want to add to this one a little bit more too, like writing wise. There's a lot that I think I'm going to end up adding to this thing because really one of the biggest parts of it is that with polarity, things have a equal but opposite in nature. It's like they exist on the same parallel of existence, but they have the opposing vibrational um, makeup. You know, the opposing frequency. So the best way when I was first starting to like get this concept, they explain it in the Kabbalion that like, you know, when you are north and you wander south, if you wander south far enough, as you keep wandering, you're eventually going to start wandering north again. That is the concept of polarity. It's not that things are just flipped, but that they're gradually changed, almost like a dial on a clock, or like on like, you know, think of something on like Doctor Who, like a dial on anything, a dial on your stove. You know, instead of it being something that flips like a stick or something that's completely straight, it's not. It's something that's completely round. Like if you were to think about hot and cold, right? There is no essential definite hot, and there is no essential definite cold. You know, if you were to ask someone on Pluto that lives on Pluto, let's just say something lives on Pluto, it probably doesn't, but if it did, it's cold as heck out there, right? Well, what they would think is cold or warm would be completely different than what we do, you know. And in a sense, there is no definitive existence of almost anything, but there is this conceptual degree of your perspective of what that means to you, you know. Like, you know, it's kind of like if you've loved, you can only love as much as you've loved, you know what I mean? If you've haven't loved much in your life at all, then the concept of love doesn't really hold a whole lot of weight. Well, as you start to love more, then love becomes a lot more important, and it has more meaning and more depth to you. Just like if you spend a lot more time sadly, you know, if you don't hate a whole lot in your life, you don't really understand that deep darkness that comes with hate, you know. But if you do spend a lot of time in your life hating, and you live in that and you sulk in that, you know, you're going to have this greater depth of what hate could be to you. And so that's where that differing of degree kind of like comes into play. And polarity, I find it's when it comes to these changing of your mental attitudes and your emotions, when it comes to mental transmutation for the hermetic principles, polarity is not just so like, for instance, I'm going to get on a little tangent here. I was explaining, my buddy was talking to me about, you know, some relationship stuff. And I was trying to relate the hermetic principles to his situation because I want to help him. And and it's not like they've been together like 15 years. Like they're fine. You know what I mean? But I was just talking to him about it. Well, there's different aspects of a relationship, you know, like you have, you know, of course you love, or you know, you have love, and then you have like they make you comfortable, you know, you're comfortable with them, you have you feel, maybe you feel whole with them, maybe you feel free with them, maybe you feel all these different core aspects of what a relationship is, right? Or what it should be, or what we all want it to be. But then over time, some of these individual compartments of the relationship may flip. And this could be a relationship with anyone. It doesn't got to be romantic. It could be with a parent, it could be with a friend, you know, but we do face a lot of emotions when it comes to our relationships with people. You know, that's where we get, honestly, a lot of the shit comes from that, or ourselves, you know. And even with ourselves, take your relationship with yourself, you know. So if all of a sudden you have this relationship, well, that relationship is still a solid thing. Just because a couple compartments start to flip, your job is to identify those compartments and figure out what it takes to change that vibrational frequency. So you still love them, they still make you kind of feel whole, but like, let's say now all of a sudden you're starting to feel like you're walking on eggshells with them, and you're like, I don't really care for this. Well, then maybe your freedom that you feel with them and then your comfortability start to flip. So now you're more uncomfortable, and now instead of more free, you're more fearful. and then that's when you got to start taking the approach, well, what are the things that I need to do to reflip those compartments? Because if you don't reflip those compartments and those mental attitudes and emotions towards that situation, that person, that relationship, or even yourself, then those other compartments that are still resting in the positive vibration are going to be drugged down because of the neglect that's going on from the lack of identifying those other compartments that are failing and lowering their vibrational, weight, their vibrational capacity into these, like Marcus was saying, lower dimensional existence. And we've all kind of, a lot of us, I'm sure, have been somewhere where you're like, in life where you're like, man, this feels like really stagnant, and I feel like I'm kind of like not, like, I'm just not who I want to be. I'm not where I want to be. I'm very resentful. I'm very, resentful's a big one too, because sometimes you can be very grateful for somebody, and then that starts, or yourself, you can be very grateful for yourself and grateful for your life, right? Let's just call it, it can go with yourself or with others, as within, as without. But then all of a sudden, maybe you start building this resentment. And then you have to identify, well, why am I actually resentful? And then that's where shadow work starts to come into play. Because to be honest, a lot of these compartments cannot be flipped without looking in the mirror and actually identifying what is going on within you, so you can make a change within yourself, so you can allow yourself to set some kind of boundary to make sure that you can start flipping the polarity back, even if that boundary is within yourself, like a simple boundary from flipping from grateful, you're weakening yourself into resentfulness, well, if you're weakening yourself with resentfulness and you want to flip the polarity and get back to gratefulness, one of the boundaries you would set for yourself is, I'm not going to have any negative self-talk, or I'm going to I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to think negative things about myself, or I'm not going to put too much of my energy or focus onto this situation. I'm going to think about more positive things that I can do. And then as you go through that process of flipping those different compartments, you can slowly start resetting yourself into a higher place of existence with a better vibrational frequency. It's not even a higher place of existence, it's just a better vibrational frequency to rest on. As humans, we want to be happy. Well, how do we do that? You know what I mean? Marcus, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Oof. Wow. So with polarity, this one is really nice to integrate in the sense of, well, in the sense of knowing that we're able to, I mean, gosh, I love how they all correlate.
They definitely do, man. It's almost hard to talk about one without another. It really, I mean, it is. It definitely is.
So with polarity, it's really fascinating, because when you really start to get to know what polarity is, you can then start to see that they're temporary experiences. And when we come to the awareness that polarity is temporary experiences, then we're able to come back to more of that center of ourself. And we're able to remember that, oh yes, I am the polarities, but with that being said, I'm also the balance of the polarities. And when we come to that remembrance, then we can also remember that the polarities are actually not reality. Reality is the source. It's the all permeating. And they talk about that in the Kabbalion as well, that like these things that we may call reality are actually not the actual reality. The reality is of everything being the all, and that everything from that turns into form and existence is an illusion of the source all. And with that illusion, which is part of duality, is also, what are you going to do with it? We have polarity to be able to co-create with, to be able to experience, to be able to shift and alchemize and go through different lessons and experiences in this journey. So along with that,
So do you care if I say something real quick
yeah,
before
go
we
ahead.
get too far? So you did this last time, and I'm almost wondering if you're reading ahead. But you did this last time, and it was beautiful. You
Uh-oh.
literally said you literally just described rhythm, which is the next core principle after polarity,
Oh, okay.
because you talked about how you're riding the waves of the polarity, and you need to realize that you are not the wave. You are your own balance, your own existence, your own pinpoint in existence. Where you desire to be, that is where you are, which is that's the concept of rhythm. So
Yep.
5, which is rhythm, the principle of rhythm asserts that everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. This principle recognizes that the cyclical nature of the universe, where every action brings about a reaction of an equal or greater force, which ironically leads into the next one, but we're not going to skip because this one's really, 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 really important. And actually, you know what? We are going to skip forward. We're going to read the second one because we're going to tie these two together. So, cause and effect. The principle of cause and effect states that every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. It emphasizes that nothing happens by chance and that there is a cause for every effect and an effect for every cause. Now, a big axiom, which is what they call quotes in in some books they call quotes axioms, and an axiom typically relating to like philosophy or esoteric knowledge. The axiom that's related to the cause and effect I find very, very beautiful because it says chance is nothing but a name. Because we've heard of people named Chance before in our life. It's very, very rare. I think there was one on like an ABC like soap opera at one point when I was growing up, but there's that chance is nothing but a name, and it's so true because we are in this pattern of existence where things are flowing in and out. Things are happening all the time, coming and going, ups and downs, ins and outs, side to side. It's all happening all the time. If you even think about like the way an atom or like a atom is built up, like the protons and the neutrons are literally rising and falling around each other. They're running through these rhythms as existence is created, but on a macro micro level, we are here experiencing all kinds of rhythms all the time, and a really easy one to relate from our, the way we feel internally or, etherically, like energetically, in comparison to, not even comparison, but in how it correlates to actual material existence, which is the world around us, with an invisible effect. One of the clearest ones, two of the clearest ones, would be the moon and the sun. The moon and the sun run on a rhythm. The sun rises and it falls. It gets hot and then it starts to get cold. Light appears and then light stops to appear. The moon affects us very, very much because we are, 80% water. And if you look at what the moon does to the flipping oceans, you might want to consider the fact that maybe it has some kind of effect on our own, anatomy. You know what I mean? Like it definitely has an effect on our anatomy, and anything that has an effect on our anatomy is essentially going to have an effect on our autonomy, which is the ability for us to make decisions and use our free will. But where does our free will come from? What drives our free will? Well, typically, what you would think might drive our free will is the inductions that we are receiving from the external world because they are producing internal effects. And these internal effects can often be identified as rhythms. There's different types of them, though. As you go through life, you're going to have all kinds of different types of rhythms you're going to go through. You're going to go through, rhythms with your relationships. You're going to go through rhythms with how you feel about yourself, like your self value, your self love, right? You're going to go through rhythms and how you feel physically, like literally your physical health. You're going to go through rhythms on how you this is a big one too, and I feel like we all deal with this, and it sucks because we don't want to think it's real, but it is. Money is monetary. It's tangible energy. That's the way I explain money. I'm not trying to bring up money in this room. It sucks, but whatever. Money is tangible energy. It allows you to have more experiences. It allows you to do more things. It allows you to give more help. It allows you to build more security, more foundational grounding, which is how you get outside of your root chakra. But then the problem is right after that, then you're driven by all this other shit that comes with your sacral. We're not going to talk about that. And then once you escape that, then you got to get outside of your ego. So then there is this constant struggle as you climb towards these upper planes of existence within your energetic body. But at the end of the day, money is a tangible energy. So with a lack of energy, you're going to be stressed out. And with an excessive energy, you may feel even overly joyous. Like it's like a manic high. We all run into that where we've got this boatload of money and now all of a sudden we're super giddy. You know what I mean? Or like all of a sudden it's gone and we're like, shit, what are we doing? Pardon my French. I hope I'm not going to get us kicked out. But I won't do it again. I do apologize, Facebook, for that. And really, with rhythm, it's the ability to identify, just like with polarity, there's compartments with polarity. And then think about the rhythm is the concept of how at all times those even individual compartments are going to be flowing. They're going to be moving. They're going to be vibrating. And they're going to be doing this conglomerate dance that is essentially going to build up to these different larger rhythms, kind of like these roller coasters through life, and things go up and then things go down. Well, the concept of being able to use rhythm and cause and effect is the idea to be able to, literally identify in your mind what side of the rhythm you are currently on, which is usually not hard because then it's like, what do I feel good about? What do I feel bad about? Right. And then the concept is how do I end up going from good to bad, or how do I end up going from bad to good on those different compartments of your life? And as you do that, then you're going to see that these causes have these effects on your life, which bring about more causes, which end up bringing about more effects. And they're all going on simultaneously. Believe it or not, they're all going on simultaneously. So then the real question is what's it mean to do that? How do you identify all those things? And honestly, I would tell you that you're not going to ever be able to identify them all. You're never going to be able to identify them all. You have to use a moral compass in a sense, which at the end of the day, the moral compass really just comes from the German aspect. As you get into like Manly P. Hall and you get into some of his writings, and obviously you get into like some of Hermes' stuff, it's this idea when magic was once upon a time real. The concept is there was two different types. You got your dark and you got your white. And literally the only difference between that is this fine line of manipulation. Once you are manipulating things for your own gain, like you are manipulating other creatures, doesn't mean you're just manipulating, movement. Like we do that all the time. We're allowed to do that. But the minute you are starting to take someone's aura or you're taking someone's energy field and you're using it, manipulating it in any kind of way, whether it be through lying, whether it be through, you're giving them certain knowledge because this is what you want, because you want them to believe this, or it gets so deep, man. But really, at the end of the day, it's that moral compass of, am I doing this for the greater good of everything. And also, it's not even, am I doing this for the greater good, but am I not only doing this, but I'm going with the flow as well. Like they did say, you know, everything flows out and in. Things are always moving. There is this path of resistance that you can take, which oftentimes is really going to be more hurtful than it is beneficial for you. But at the end of the day, being uncomfortable, without being uncomfortable sometimes or some way, there is no technical growth. You know, if you are always comfortable and complacent, you're not really growing. You're not. The human needs to become uncomfortable in order to be able to grow. But at the end of the day, where is that uncomfortability coming from? Is it coming from bravery? Is it coming from self-deprecation? Is it coming from, you know, doing something that's creative that you may have some self-doubt that you can't do, you know? So you're like being arts and crafts. Arts and crafts make me so flippin' uncomfortable, dude. I have no idea how to cut out a picture or draw something, you know, and so I'll still try, but like it really is this concept of, is it coming from a proper place and approach? And once it is, then you are allowed to start really setting yourself on a position of the rhythm so you don't bounce out and have these terrible lows. But at the same time, you know, as above, so below, right? So now when you start to climb above, you also need to realize that you can't be too high all the time on life, because then when that low starts to come, you're not going to be prepared for its approach. And that's where this calmness and the serenity of life starts to come into play, where you're like, you know, the monks in, you know, different parts of the world, they seem so peaceful when they're walking around, and there's like, they have emotion, but it's just not too much. And that's because it comes from a place of inner peace. It's not like you're just riding the roller coaster. You're allowing yourself to set a place and a level of inner peace. And once you fully do that, then the outside forces of the realms don't really invade and cause this disruption within you. You kind of reach this level of personal integrity and a stance on yourself and on life that it's almost unbelievable to some people that you didn't get aggravated, or you didn't get upset, or you didn't get jealous, or you didn't, you know, like succumb to that desire that was right in front of you, placed right in front of you, that you knew that like was really a bad thing, and you identified it right there. Like, wait, no, that's gonna bottle me out into a lower rhythm that I don't want to be in. You know, it's just kind of a tricky field, man. But the rhythm and cause and effect are definitely correlate. And I'm going to read the last one. I'm not trying to skip out, but I know we're running on some time here. So the last one is gender. Gender's great. We misconcept it all the time. We think it's about our, you know, our sexual organs or our reproductive parts, and it's absolute bullcrap. Actually, gender, when you get into like the root etymology of what gender means, it's the idea of creation, what it takes to create. And what it takes to create is the principle of gender posits that the gender isn't everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. This principle suggests that the gender exists on all planes of existence and manifests the masculine and the feminine aspects of things. So this one is a little different. It's really not, because in a way of like, I firmly believe this one almost circles all the way back to mentalism, because gender, in a way, what it is talking about is within the mind, because all is mind. It takes critical thinking and logical maneuvering to create. But without imagination and creativity, creation will never exist. And within feminine, once you start looking into, you know, Fibonacci and what that means, what that looks like, if you ever have, you know, it's like hidden in nature everywhere. It's that concept that without the creative driving, with the imagination of the goal of making something new and grand, or even doesn't gotta be grand. It's just new because it's constantly moving. We live in this big bang where everything is constantly moving and expanding. You know, we're part of source. It's constant creation. Everything's moving and changing all at once. And so with gender, all that's saying is that all the way down to the, once again, we're going to get into mental transmutation, which is how do I change my thoughts, my emotions, my talk paths, how I think about myself, how I think about others, you know, all the way down to the core of it. There is going to be a critical thinking, a logical examination, and there's also going to be a creative thought and a imaginative aspect, something new that you maybe haven't done or isn't familiar to that situation right now. Like it's maybe just something new that you haven't tried, you know, or something you haven't tried for that situation. Like it's very, very simple, but yet I wouldn't say it's complicated, but it's very, very it's deep. It's deep. It's like 1 + 1 and 1 + 1 equals creation. You know, that 1 + 1 is literally the aspects of what divine masculine truly, truly are, and what divine feminine truly, truly is. And with the combining of those two, that's when you start getting molecular structures and atoms, which are the core, you know, root of existence, which probably goes down even further into that. But you got your protons and your neutrons, and they're all moving in this very critical logical pattern, but yet it's creative and imaginative and shifting and rotating orbit all at the same time. It's like the perfect combination to allow life or material to exist. And that's the thing, though, that, like I said, goes all the way down into the mental plane before it comes into the material plane. And it exists in the spirit plane. Of course, it's everywhere. But in order to really start to change your past, you need to understand that each part of it is going to involve every move that you make to try to change your mental vibrational aspects of yourself are going to involve critical thinking, logical thinking, observing of the self accountability, realism, like being realistic, like really, who am I? What am I doing? Like what like you know, and then it's the other side of where do I want to go? Where do I want this to be? How do I want this to change? What do I want to create out of this situation? But at the end of the day, both of those compartments need to have a direction that guides itself towards the greater good, or essentially the ascension of our vibrations. And that does not mean like go drink the Kool-Aid and follow everyone that wants to tell you something. It means follow your heart, follow your spirit. When spirit draws you to do something, usually it's time to act. When your emotions are drawing you to do something, that is not necessarily spirit. That is a feed into your brain and into your heart, an upper dimensional signal for you to sit back and relax and actually take a minute to logically think, even if it's for 5 or 10 seconds, what is actually going on. And then where you really want your vibrational frequency to exist next. Because that's what it's about. It's not about where you want necessarily everyone else's frequency to exist. Once again, that would be manipulation. It's where do you want to exist? I just felt angry. Do I want to continue to feel angry, or do I want to sit back and logically and creatively pick through this using the divine masculine and the divine feminine to create myself a better frequency and place of existence? And at the end of the day, that's you know, you're riding the rhythm, you're flipping the polarity, you're using divine masculine and divine feminine to go ahead and make a force to understand the cause and effect of the situation going around you while existing within the all, using the vibration to change your situation. So, yeah, as within, as without, man. That's on you, Marcus.
Well said. Yeah, the only thing I want to touch on with gender is that we can notice too that when we get a little bit out of balance into either too much masculine or too much feminine, there's certain manifestations that will happen that we'll experience. And some examples of when we go too far yang, so to say, which is too far masculine, we can be on what seems like constant overdrive, overstimulated. We could be in like workaholism. And what will happen is at some point, due to the laws of how things are created with rhythm, polarity, all of these different laws, is that we'll kind of like hit a threshold at some point. And it's unique to you as a being, and it's all different for each of us due to our DNA and the way we're designed. But we'll kind of hit a point where we'll hit a threshold where we burn out. And what that is that we're gone into the extreme of the masculine energy. And then when we get to that extreme of the masculine energy, we're starting to reject our feminine aspects. What's our feminine aspects? It's like your self-care, it's your rest, it's your getting sleep at night in between work, things of that nature. And if we constantly neglect that, we go into the extreme of the masculine gender energy. And then we burn out, hit that threshold, and crash. And then that burnout and crash then spirals us into our feminine energy. But it's more in a way of, I don't want to say it's a forceful way, but it's more of a way of not as much as, consciously wanting to be in our feminine energy. It's more so of we went so far out into this masculine energy that we burnt ourselves out, that we pushed ourselves to that limit. So the key is if we can find that balance of masculine action, feminine surrendering, and self-care, then this is very helpful for any of us that are trying to, be athletes, co-creators, artists, musicians, and you're someone that's trying to do these things for the long run, in the long haul, and you're trying to really stay up with things. You'll notice a lot of people have regiments and routines that balance and integrate both masculine and feminine principles, whether it's meditation and yoga, or it is getting to the gym, breaking down blockages, or it's eating certain ways that help ignite certain aspects of ourselves. These are all different things that are manifested forms of us trying to have that balance with the genders that we have within us, the masculine and the feminine. And it's very deep too, especially when you get into just the remembrance that we all have both masculine and feminine. We kind of think in a way sometimes that men are only masculine and women are only feminine. And that can just put us into more of the polarities, which isn't good, isn't bad necessarily, but you're going to experience what we can kind of say is more of like shadow realities or phantom realities of the actual whole truth that we could experience. And in the end, it's all a universal game. And we, as Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets, ascend and descend the ladder a million quadrillion times in our soul journey. So remembering as well, last thing I'm going to say about this whole thing is just try to remember as well that you're not separate from these studies. You're not separate from the universe when it comes to looking into this stuff. Try to remember that there's a connection of all these principles and all these studies being the mechanics and operation system of you in your vehicle as well. I know it's very easy for us to read something outside of us and then automatically go into separation. And then we start thinking that, we are not a part of those principles. We're just reading those principles as something that's like foreign and fantasy. But part of being that alchemist, being that self-master on the path, is remembering that, oh, we are the principles. We're in an embodiment of the principles, and we are able to do movements and alchemize and shift with all these principles when we find that harmonics. Brother man, anything that you would like to close with?
I mean, I'm, I, you know, I do. I really, really do. This kind of goes outside of the hermetic principles. First off, I just want to say thanks for allowing me to share on here and discuss this with you on your channel, man. I really appreciate that. And recently in my life, I've been, this is a couple years, I don't want to get too deep, but I've really created a pretty solid relationship with my higher self. Um, my relationship with Gaia actually kind of happened before my higher self. And if you actually ever read the Kabbalah and they actually get into how like the planet literally has a soul, just like we do, you know what I mean? Like she's producing life, just like we produce. Like she has a flipping soul. And I got really close to her before the Kabbalah came into my life, and even my higher self. But that relationship with my higher self has been one of the most just humbling things I've ever gotten to experience in my life, my entire life. And the only way that that relationship can start to happen is admitting, like to yourself if you can, or even, entertaining the idea if it's not foreign to you, that you have a direct connection with you that is autonomous. It cares for you, and it has a direct connection to Akasha and Source. And it is overlooking you. And it typically is the thing sending you your emotions. It's the one that gives you your gut instinct and gives you that little spidey sense every once in a while. And have you ever been to some really crazy shit in your life, stuff in your life, and you thought you were gonna die, or you get hurt, or go somewhere, and maybe you did, but you learned some incredible lessons, or maybe you dodged something, and it really allowed you to continue moving forward in life. Like they call it a guardian angel, or whatever they want, whatever people call it. But I do highly hope that everyone out there gets to have that kind of relationship with themselves and their higher selves, because essentially all you are is the material flesh bag that is, you're the person, you're the thing running that flesh bag, but you have this connection to everything that is divine. And through study and through activity and through charity and different aspects and of life, you'll get to experience that connection more and more and more as you proceed. And I can tell you that that is the most enriching feeling that you will ever have in your life. And you know I did learn something. I thought the saying was pretty cool, that we do live in this very synthetic existence. Our world has become very synthetic. It is, digital media, social media, it's beautiful, but it's also created egos that are, the size of Mount Everest, and it's caused a lot of people to stop following their soul or their spirit quite as much. And whoever would have thought that the internet, it didn't make everybody dumber, but in a way it did, because like there's a lot of smart stuff you can research on there, but are people really doing it, or are they just, looking up things that make them laugh or feel, kind of funny inside or something, and at the end of the day, your relationship to your higher self and spirit is the least synthetic thing you will ever get to experience. but it is something that is only produced by faith and by repentance to the universe. Actual feeling of repentance, like apologizing, having remorse that you've, caused trauma to others or even caused trauma to yourself, and that you're grateful to be able to be here and continue to moving forward because life's a gift. And just understanding that, and every once in a while taking some time to be alone, because when you can be alone and not feel lonely, that's real stuff, man. And
Mhm.
I feel like in this world we do have a lot of people that as soon as they're alone, as soon as their messenger's off, or they have this like hole inside. And I have a lot of friends that are not like that now, but I've been through a lot of life and I've seen it, and I've been one of them. Yeah, and once you have that inner standing and that inner independence, things kind of become a little easier and a lot more peaceful, and I just hope that for everyone, man. I appreciate you having me on here, buddy.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. Beautiful words. Thank you for closing out
Yep,
with such a heartfelt message for everybody.
absolutely.
Mm.
Happy
Thank
to
you,
be
man.
here. Yes, sir.
Well, with that being said, thank you for everybody out there for tapping in and viewing and receiving, as well as exchanging. And if you guys have any feedback, any comments, anything that you would like to expand upon, feel free to drop them in the comments on the YouTube or on the Instagram side. And really appreciate all of you guys out there, especially those that continue to support my movement and these beautiful spaces that we continue to create and co-create together as we all do it together. And until next time, you guys have a blessed and beautiful day or night wherever you are. And wholeness, balanced love. Have a good night, brother.
Have a good
Much
night,
love.
man. Much love, brother. See ya.